Hi guys, we are starting Unit 3, Module 3, and we are looking at fractions and decimals. We're going to start with decimals. So, we are going to use our base 10 number pieces, although now we're going to look at them as fractions and decimals rather than whole numbers. So, we have our mat, and normally we would say that this is 100, except now this is going to be one whole. This is what our whole piece will look like. So if we are going to write that as a decimal, we write it like that, 1.00. And as a fraction, of course, it is still just 1. All right, next we're going to look at our strip. And that is this piece here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 units and one strip. So when we're comparing our strip to our whole, that represents 1/10. If we were to color in just one of these on our mat, that would be 1/10. So here's it as our fraction. And that is actually in the 10th place. Notice the THS. We're going to talk about that in just a second. If we were to write this as a decimal, it would be 0.10, although we don't say point. When we're speaking about decimals, we would say that's 1/10 because that's in the 10th place. So just like we wrote it as a fraction as 1/10, when we read this decimal, that is 1/10. All right, lastly, we are looking at our unit piece, which is our tiny, tiny little baby square. And there are 100 of these little squares in our whole. In our mat, there are 100 of those in here. So this is our 100th place. Remember, we're talking about numbers that are less than 1 now because we're talking about fractions and decimals. So this is our 100th place, not our hundreds place. So when we are writing this as a fraction, it is 1 out of 100 squares. So if we were to color in just one tiny little square in our mat, that would represent 1 out of the total 100 tiny squares that are in our mat. When we're writing this number as a decimal, 100th, we write it as 0.01. So at the beginning of the year, we talked about place value a lot. If I have a number like 43.29, we know that our 4, that's in our tens place. Next we have our 3 in our ones place. Anything after the decimal means that it is less than a whole number. So this is where our fractions and our decimals come in. It's less than a whole number. So here is our decimal, and then the first number after the decimal, that's what we were talking about up here. That is our 10th place. Now, if we were looking at this number like it was money, that would be $43.29. So that 2 is actually representing our tenths, which is less than $1. So that is like our dimes. If we have 20 cents, that would be 2 dimes. This 9, that is our hundredths. That's our hundredths place. And that would be our pennies. That would be 9 cents or 9 pennies. So we have, after our decimal, we have our tenths place and then our hundredths place. So when we are writing those numbers, we can write them both as a fraction and as a decimal. But first, let's talk about how we would say these numbers in word form. So if you notice, I said, well, we don't say 0.10 or 0.01. We don't say our decimals that way. Let's say all right, 24.54. So anytime that you come across a decimal point, you say and. This is just like we do with money. If we said this in a dollar amount, $24.54. When we are writing this just as a decimal, it would be 24 and that's where our decimal is, 54 hundredths, because that 4 is in the hundredths place. $24 and 54 hundredths. Now, if we had a number that didn't have a number in the hundredths place, we would write this as 3 and 2 tenths. Because our 2 is in our tenths place. If we had to convert this to money, that would be $3.20. So 2 tenths, that would be 20 cents. All right, let's do some practice. I want you to practice writing these numbers in word form, how we would say them out loud. So write those 3 numbers. I want you to practice writing those in word form. Remember, we're not writing it as money right now, and we are not writing point when we come across our decimal point. Write it how you would say it out loud.